NTV.
All right, welcome back and many thanks for staying with us right here on Morning at NTV. We're getting into another conversation, copyright intellectual property. Yes, what does that mean and so forth? Yes, last year the Uganda Registration Services Bureau suspended Uganda Performing Rights Society Chief Executive Officer, that is Mr. James Wasula, and the Compliance Officer, Mr. Dixon Matovu. Now, this suspension, according to the URSB, is to allow for an effective ongoing inquiry into the Constitution, the inner workings, and the financial conditions of the Uganda Performing Rights Society. Almost a year and a half later, the people in charge are here to give us an update on the progress of the Collection Society. We do have Gilbert Agaba. He is the Manager Intellectual Property at the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, and we also do have Mr. Anthony Mwanda, the Restructuring Officer at the Uganda Performing Rights Society. Both gentlemen join me right now in studio. Andrew Kagwa will be making his way to the studio later on to have more of this conversation later on. But what is happening here, Mr. Anthony and Mr. Agaba? What is the nub of the matter? I'll start with you.
Yes, good morning, viewers. URSB is a government entity that is responsible for administration of copyright. It means, as the law called the Copyright and Neighboring Rights Act. Under that law, it established a mechanism for licensing organizations run by authors to collect and distribute royalties on their behalf. These organizations are called collective management organizations. In Uganda, we have licensed 3 organizations. One is called Uganda Performing Rights Society, which we'll be discussing today. This is responsible or represents musicians. The others is, there are 2 more. There's Uganda Federation of Movie Industry. This represents filmmakers and the people in that industry. And then we have Uganda Reproduction Rights Organization. This is in respect of literary works, so books and this kind of thing. So these organizations licensed by URSB, their main role is to collect royalties. Because when you are an author or you create a copyright protected work, you get what are called rights or entitlements. These kinds of entitlements means that you as the author have the right to broadcast your work. You as the author have the right to perform the work. You as the author have the right to reproduce or make copies of the work. You as the author have the right to put that work online, share it via YouTube or internet and these kinds of things. So those entitlements, those rights to you as the author, anyone who has to exercise them must get authorization from you, and to get authorization they are required to pay you a small amount of money, which is called a royalty. So because here we are now on NTV, I could be a performer, I sang a song or something like that. We are now on NTV, but my song could be performed here on NTV. It's being being broadcast on NTV. It's being broadcast on radio stations. It's also being broadcast on YouTube. It's impossible as a performer for me to collect from all these people who use my work. So the CMO's role is to go to these various entities and everyone who's using my work and say, okay, for you to use my song, you need to pay the author a certain amount of money. This amount of money is set out in a tariff, as you hear from my colleague, and you pay it as you use, and this money is collected by the collecting organization or the CMO and distributed to the owners of the work. So that's the role of the CMO. So it is a members organization, but it's licensed by URSB to collect. So whereas it's a private entity,
To collect money from the users
and
who want to get the creative work of the author.
Yes.
So what are some of the challenges that you encountered while using the collective management organizations like Uganda Performing Rights Society? What are some of those challenges that you've noticed because you suspended them?
Yes. So we found out that these organizations were not working optimally. That is, they were not really serving the interests of all the users, and even the people who wanted, not the beneficiaries, that is the members, and even the users, those who want to access the work, it was almost impossible, and those who wanted to benefit as members, they are not getting what they were due to them. The reason was that the as we know, the fish, rots from the head. There were issues with governance of the organization. Whereas it had its constitution, it was not following even the set out structure of governance as set out in its own constitution. It also seemed to have one person controlling the entirety of how the organization was running. So there was no checks and balances between the board, between the executive and the AGM. There were many serious governance issues. There were issues of accountability because, as I said, it collects money, and it was not clear how much money was being collected, where it was going, who was entitled to get this money, and it was also not transparent. No one knew about this organization. Most of the people who interacted with it knew it after they had interacted in a rather unfortunate manner during enforcement action or this kind of thing. So all these problems, we received complaints from the members themselves that what can you do about this organization? Because we had started doing enforcement, but the members were not getting the returns of enforcement.
So before you tell us what you found out after a year and a half, we'd like to know from Mr. Anthony Mwanda, the restructuring officer at the Uganda Performing Rights Society, your side of this story. We'd like to know.
Thank you. My engagement at UPRS is to support the caretaker administration which was put in place by the regulator.
So since the suspension, what is happening at UPRS?
We have the caretaker conducted an inquiry which revealed certain areas of fragile administration. And then we started on a process to revamp them and make recommendations so that when new management starts, we focus on those. Key among those is the basis on which royalties are distributed, which is the register. The register is not clean. We found that there were issues, legal issues. We have underage members who should not be in the register. We have members who are aged 100 and above. Maybe they don't exist. But also we had non-members who received royalties. So those were glaring issues.
Wait, non-members of the Uganda Performing Rights Society received money, but how?
Well, those are the governance issues that arose. Now, during 2017, 18, 19, the members, the owners of the company, made an appeal to the regulator to create, to enhance governance. And that led to the suspension of the former administration team. So what we have done internally is to restructure the organization and make the typical pyramidal administration. In the past, there was a flat administration. Everybody reported to the CEO, so the reporting lines were blurred and the burden was very high at the top. So we have restructured that. We are cleaning the register, but we also want to know who is a member. So right now we are in a process of determining which persons, which individuals have fulfilled the requirements of membership. Have they applied? Do they actually have works which make them members? And have they assigned those works to UPRS to manage them? So along with that is that the members complained that their online revenue streams were not supporting them enough. The arrangement for the online revenue was not clear. Their works were being stolen by other members. So those are the kind of governance issues.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Ms. Agaba will actually interest us in the significance of this copyright on the authors, but then we'd like to know your findings into the inner workings of the Uganda Performing Rights Society. What have you found out?
Yes, so in addition to what he has mentioned, the issues really center around those three areas. There's a problem with the governance, which, as he has mentioned, the structure has been realigned. You have an AGM at the top, you have a proper board, and then you have the secretariat, which deals with the day-to-day running of the organization.
Well, these issues ironed out.
Yes, we are ironing them out, and incidentally, that's why we're having a general meeting on the 6th of October, where we are going to have the new board elected so that we can hand over the organization from the caretakers back to the members to run their own affairs. So the issues to do with governance, then the issues of accountability, like you had, We want the money that is being collected to go to the rightful owners as little minimum cost and also as transparent as possible. So one of the aims is to put in place mechanisms and systems to enable the accountability to be clear to everyone, whether you are a member, whether you are a user, or whether you're an interested party, like a regulator like URSB. We believe it is important, as we have seen from this COVID-19 issue, that the people in the creative industry depend on their talent. They don't have any other asset. They are depending on their ability to create. And we have to ensure that we build an enduring or sustainable organization that is going to help them during the lowdown and when things even are doing well.
All right, Mr. Gaba, let me also bring in Mr. Anthony Mwanda. Let's talk about the benefits and how one can enter Uganda Performing Rights Society. Yes. How does one become a member and what are the benefits for those members? Yes.
Okay. I'll start with the last one. The primary function of UPRS is to manage the copyright works of members. That means that every person who uses the copyright works, the musical works, for commercial purposes should pay a license to use that. So UPRS has a structured tariff which manages all commercial users. Typically, you'll have hotels, bars, restaurants, aircraft.
So if I'm an artist, I put my work on paper, then I bring it to
UPRS.
Uganda Performing Rights Society.
Correct.
And then you give me a license.
No. You as the works owners, you assign those works to UPRS. Now, let me talk about the members. The members have created works, registered the works with URSB, so they have copyright. They declare those works to UPRS to manage them. And presumably, they have made an application. So there are three things. Application, declaration of works, assignment of those works to UPRS. Then UPRS, through their structures and mechanisms, go out to collect a license from commercial users of the music. So on one side, you have the creators, and on the other side, you have the consumers, you and I who consume the music. In between, there are the people who are using that music.
So the user is the one supposed to get a license?
Yes.
I see.
Yes. So the benefit to the member is this. When UPRS collects the revenue, aggregate revenue, and puts it in a box, the owner earns royalties based on usage. So if your song has had 1,000 plays and mine has 100 plays, we get paid pro rata. You get paid more than I because your works have been played more. It's based on usage. So that was one of the other issues, that there wasn't a clear mechanism through which the collected revenue was divided among the members. There was a disproportionate division of royalties without a standard method to divide the revenue. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mwanda. Yes, you're still watching Morning at NTV, and we're having this conversation largely centered around intellectual property. And we're also getting some breaking news that seems to indicate that the President of the United States, that is Mr. Donald Trump, has tested positive for the novel coronavirus that we've gotten to know as the COVID-19 disease, together with the First Lady, Melania Trump. The message has been posted on the President's Twitter page. You can go there and verify that information. It is on Twitter. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with more of this conversation with Mwanda and the arts and culture journalist, Mr. Andrew Kagwa from the Daily Monitor. We'll be right back.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
We know that it's important to stay informed and up to date with real issues based on what's happening around you. That's why we're offering a 20% discount on your favorite e-paper starting today. Here's how you can sign up. Visit newsstand.nationmedia.com/Uganda and click Read. Register to create a new account. An email will be sent to your registered address to reset your password. Log in with a new password. If you already have an account, simply log in. Select the subscription you want on Change Plan. Enter the promo code MONITORT and proceed to pay. Log in and enjoy the new look. Your newspaper online follows you wherever you are. Offer valid until Wednesday, 7th October 2020.
So I went to the UK and there was something new that was brewing. And this had to do with the politics and the leadership in that nation. These things sometimes are not plainly seen. That would mean that the things that are plainly seen are actually more deceptive to you and to your heritage than these things that are actually yours.
There is not any man, prophet, psychic, whatever you may call them, that has stood in front of masses and has been that detailed and that specific about things year in, year out, and you have seen them before you.
Prophet Elvis Mbonye, the prophet with an unmatched record of prophetic fulfillment.
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Welcome back to Morning at NTV. Without much further ado, let's veer back into the conversation on intellectual property. We are talking about copyright in a way. Now, Mr. Mwanda, Anthony Mwanda is right here in studio with Andrew Kagwa, an arts and culture journalist. Mr. Agaba had to vacate to give space to Mr. Andrew. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's always great. I missed you 2 weeks ago. You snapped me. You didn't show up for the show.
No,
but I trust you're okay.
Okay.
I had to get you on that one. Mr. Mwanda, you were still telling us how someone can join a collective management organization like the Uganda Performing Rights Society.
Yes. For one to become a member, they have to have created music. They have copyright works, musical copyright works. Then they apply to join UPRS. When they apply, the first thing is that they will declare their works. And we will check that those works are their original works. They have been registered with URSB and they have copyright. And after that, they will assign those works to UPRS. That is how one becomes a member. The purpose of which is that UPRS will collect revenue, will collect license fees, and then distribute them to the members.
All right,
as
Mwanda.
royalties.
All right. Mr. Andrew Kagwa is an arts and culture journalist from the Daily Monitor. We would like to know, do you believe in your own assessment that Uganda Performing Rights Society has done more than enough to protect the works of the authors in this country and the artists?
Probably. I'm hoping they're going to do enough because...
So what haven't they done?
Like before there was this whole takeover and everything,
Right.
very many artists used to have issues, and I believe many of them still have issues because even what's happening right now is still a work in progress.
What were they saying?
Well, many artists were complaining that they were not getting paid, even when they used to hear some people were getting paid.
The non-members.
Yeah, of course I've just learned that from today that some of the people that were getting paid were non-members.
Yes.
Some of the things I heard from artists, of course, was the fact that when you complained and you had some sort of a name, they would call you and then you are given an envelope, and then you were not told why you were given an envelope of that amount. Like you were just getting that money. And then I happened to go to the new UPRS offices earlier this year, and some of the things I learned was that there was not really like a database to show why we paid this person this much or why this person didn't get paid. Like none of these things were there. Like, of course, if you were an artist at that time, you had to complain about that, especially if you had to speak out for them to call you and pay you a certain amount.
Andrew, what do you want to see changed at the Uganda Performing Rights Society so that the works of the artists in this country are better protected?
I think it's so hard to protect works from pirates at the moment because the internet is here. People are using the internet. It's so hard to protect works from being pirated. But of course, one of the things that can be done is making piracy a crime, not only to the person pirating and selling, but to the person owning. I know in some countries it is so bad for me to be caught watching a pirated movie because it means I'm making someone lose money, and I'll be arrested for. They will arrest you for distributing, for owning, because even if you're not directly selling, you're an accomplice to a crime somehow. So I believe if we can find a way, all the things that is saying that they need the copyright law strengthened and everything, one of the things that needs to happen is not arresting the guys that are just selling the music illegally, but the person owning the music illegally. But the good thing is that one of the conversations I had still with him, there are ways of recouping money, because like I said earlier, it's so hard to fight piracy now. But when you make it a crime, you're basically just trying to limit the legal distribution that's literally happening right now. It's legal, but the music they are distributing was gotten illegally. Yeah, so we go back. You say, what do I want to see change? Because I think I said.
What do you want to see changed at the Uganda Performing Rights Society so that our artists are better protected?
Okay, for protection, I think I said much of it, but for pay, I think we need more streams for collection. They need more streams, because at the moment, I believe it's been hotels, media houses, what else?
Bars,
clubs. Yeah, but you see, these are not enough streams. Like we need more streams. They need to collect money from more streams. That's the only way.
Well, of course, we have a restructuring officer, Mr. Andrew Monda, so he can engage us. Mr. Andrew, we would like to know, how is copyright protected and how long does copyright last?
Well, by law, your copyright is protected 50 years until you have passed on. It is collected. We put in place in the application form that you have to indicate a next of kin. Now, many members do not indicate next of kin, so it is not clear to whom the resultant revenue that comes out will go. It is protected, yes, but the revenue cannot be distributed.
So if there is no next of kin, what happens to the money?
It will go to a suspense account. That's what the law says. So the UPRS is supposed to run a suspense account where such money would go.
So that's for the individuals. And the companies, how long does copyright last?
Not sure about companies. And well, my basic understanding is that the company would be treated as an individual. They have corporate entity, so they will. It obeys like a person would. It can be sued, so it too can own interest in copyright. Copyright is like property, so I guess a company can own their own copyright. But let me go back to some of what Andrew said earlier. UPRS manages 37 different tariffs, which manage different areas. So now the purpose of the restructure is to go into stakeholder engagement with the different organizations and regulators of different industries. For example, we all know that the buses that go up country consume music and video and all these things. They should be contributing and playing their part, paying their part towards consumption of these copyright works.
Anyway.
The taxis, Uber, all these things, they pay. We know that all the gyms use Zumba and music to do their stuff. Not all of them do. But also, the focus of collection was mainly in the center, in the Kampala area. So the far-flung areas were not serviced. And then you found that even the radio stations, which were monitored to some extent to reflect the usage of copyright works, reflected on radio stations based in the center of Kampala. So artists who are based out in the regions were disadvantaged and would never have a chance to get royalties because there was no mechanism to monitor consumption of their music from that far back.
But in light of all these challenges, what are you doing as Uganda Performing Rights Society to iron out these issues and ensure that the works of the authors are better protected and they get to benefit from their work?
Okay. What perhaps I did not tell you at the beginning is my background. My background has been tax administration for the last 20 years. I understand the way revenue administrations work and the the synergies that you get by working with different partners. So we have identified different corporate entities to work with to share information that we can use to collect more revenue.
Well, Andrew Kagwa, before we wrap up, send a message to the artists out there. There are some that are still adamant not to copyright their works. For them, they'll just go to a studio, do the works, and then, publish. But then explain to them the importance of copyright as we wrap up.
Like, which camera do I look at?
That one there, camera one.
Yes, you see, most of the times I tell artists, if you're going to complain about people not paying you, you need to ask yourself if you're registered with them. Like, it's better to fight when you're with them and you have a case to make than to fight when you're out. Like, no one is going to protect you when you're not out. So I think the best way to get all this message across, please become part of the system so that you can get your voice heard.
Andrew Kagwa, announcer and culture journalist with the Daily Monitor, and also Anthony Mwanda, the restructuring officer at the Uganda Performing Rights Society. Please, many thanks for having made the time to speak.